Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar on Kickstarting or your Net Promoter System program. Today this is Vivek Jaiswal and myself Kushal taking you through this webinar with some highlights on what is Net Promoter Score, what are some tips on implementing it, and how to take it to the next level at your organization. So let's start the webinar. The link of this webinar will be shared with you in a subsequent email. So you will also be able to view it at your convenience. Talking briefly about the presenters. Today it's the founding team of Customer Guru that is taking you through this webinar. It's Vivek Jaiswal, who has done his MBA in strategy from RSM Rotterdam. He has worked with organizations like Customer Gauge, Philips, and TCS, where he has been taking up multiple roles in business development and customer experience management. He has consulted with leading brands across the globe on implementing Net Promoter Score. And then it's yours truly, Kushal. I have done my IIT Mesra and MBA from IIT Mumbai. Worked with organizations like Wipro and Tata Elxsi in the past. I myself have worked in business acquisition roles in the past, and Vivek and I have gotten together around a few years back to start this company and helping companies on implementing NPS and customer experience strategies. We are going to cover briefly on what Net Promoter System is and why is it important. Some key steps on how to implement NPS at your organization, tips to succeed with them. Finally, once the NPS has been rolled out at an organization, what are the traits of such an organization, some conclusion, and finally a Q&A session for any queries that you may have. Customer Guru, being a boutique consulting firm, has worked with organizations in implementing Net Promoter System. We have helped them manage the change that is required in implementing a Net Promoter Score, setting up the right team structure and the processes, rolling out the Voice of Customer program at these organizations, and implementing customer feedback management tools which go a long way in automating the process at organizations. So now I'm switching the presentation to Vivek, and I would like to Vivek to answer and help us understand what is NPS, and with his experience, what are the best ways of implementing NPS at an organization. Over to you, Vivek.
Thanks, Kushal. Hi, everyone. A very good morning to everyone's joining us from the other parts of the world. A good afternoon for everyone from India. Let's get started with what is NPS and why is it important. Net Promoter Score is a customer loyalty metric developed by Fred Reichheld from Bain & Company in congruence with SAT metrics. And to tell you very briefly, for those who are not aware of how Net Promoter Score works or the Net Promoter System works, it starts with asking your customers the ultimate question, which is, how likely is it that you would recommend the company, the product, or the services of that company to a friend or colleague? It is asked this rating is asked on a scale of 0 to 10, wherein based on the feedback that your respondents give, they are either categorized as detractors, who are people who give you a score of 0 to 6, and boy, are they angry. They cost you money. They badmouth you. They make sure that anyone in the second degree of connection does not do business with you at all. Whereas the passives, which are the people who give you a score of 7 and 8, they are the fence sitters. They jump to the next available option. They are more or less oblivious to your existence, to be honest. On the other side, the promoters, they are your raving fans who buy from you, refer others, and then come back to buy some more from you. You got to focus on the promoters and the detractors. The net promoter score as a system asks companies to focus on the detractors by reducing the reasons that your company is creating detractors and increasing the reasons through which you are creating promoters. The passives automatically get to become the promoters. The net promoter score ultimately is then calculated as the percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors. So pretty simple, very straightforward, nothing like rocket science. But why is it important? First thing, Net Promoter Score actually quantifies customer loyalty. There have been several customer satisfaction measurement matrix around the world, but they have failed to give a strong correlation between customer loyalty and the score that is given by the customers. And Net Promoter Score in that ways has been empirically proven to be a measure of the customer loyalty. Second, it helps identify the reasons why customers are unhappy. So along with asking the how likely is it that you would recommend question, which is the ultimate question, it is recommended that companies ask the follow-on question as to why the customer is giving a particular score. That becomes a gold mine of information for companies to identify the reasons why customers are unhappy. And ultimately, Net Promoter System, which is the system which incorporates the Net Promoter Score, it shifts the focus on taking action. It is not a research-oriented metric. It is not a marketing research metric. It is something that operationalizes customer feedback and acts as a so how do you start implementing Net Promoter Score in your organization? We've come up with a very simple 5-step method to implement NPS. The first thing is you start listening. How do you start listening? You first identify the key touch points. The key touch points where your customers are interacting with your organization. It could be the product that you're selling, the service that you're selling. It could be the reception desk of your hotel. Anything that comes to your mind where you are having a key customer interaction. Then you start taking feedback on those touch points. The feedback incorporates the ultimate question, like I said, and asking the follow-up question of why. As you start getting feedback to those questions, which is you start listening to your customers, you will identify some key pain areas are facing, and those that you can immediately fix. So the second step is jumping onto putting out those fires that your customers are pointing out. Go out and fix those issues. Immediately fix the customer complaints and tactical issues to get some quick wins as well. The third step is now, as you start gathering more and more information about your customers and understand the kind of responses you're getting from your customers, that is the time when you have some data, let's say somewhere around 30 days worth of data from your customers' feedback. You take that data back and start analyzing them. You try to understand the drivers, you slice and dice the data and try to see of all the customers, are there certain patterns that you can identify in certain other segments of your customers. These kind of understandings are going to play a huge role in the next step, where you start designing the actions that you need to take. You start building an action plan for improving customer satisfaction, and then start developing project plans and allocating budgets to those designs. This is now taking a holistic view of your customer's experience, not just the feedback. The feedbacks are just telling you, having understood the feedback, now you have a handle on the drivers of happy and unhappy customers, so to say the promoters and the detractors. You are now designing projects and allocating budget to increase the customer experience across the board. And that is the fifth step, where you start implementing these plans and projects and start measuring the changes in the Net Promoter Score based on the implementations that you've just rolled out. So there you go. It then again comes back to the first step, where you start listening to your customers again. So it's a 5-step process, but it runs in a cycle. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is to jump to quick fixes, which is about closing the loop also, which is very important in Net Promoter Score. So, Kushal, that's a little bit about Net Promoter Score and how to implement the Net Promoter Score in an organization. Could you jump into sharing some tips from your experience on how organizations can succeed with Net Promoter Score?
Oh, sure, Vivek. Thanks a lot for this information. We've seen that these 5 steps have really helped organizations kickstart the program. Some of the key learnings on how can companies make it, even a better success, and what are some those tips. First and foremost, the most important part of a Net Promoter Score program is to close the loop. Close the loop not just with your promoters, but with your detractors as well. See, your respondents have taken the effort of giving your feedback. Only ethical that you acknowledge it. So you have to take action on the negative feedback that you have been getting, and also let the promoters know that you really value the time that they have taken in responding, and get back to them as well. Along with that, you have to make sure that NPS is not a market research tool. NPS is a lot more actionable. A market research tool is very detailed. Your motive and agenda of such a market research activity is entirely different from that of Net Promoter System. So make the NPS program actionable. Take action on the feedbacks that you are receiving from your customers. Be transparent. The third important tip. It's very important to be transparent and involve everyone in your organization, right from the top to the bottom. You have to include your frontline employees because they are interacting with your customers on a day-to-day basis. And you have to get the go-ahead and from their top management. Because to ensure that a program succeeds in an organization, it has to be driven from the top. Something that is very important, and I hear a lot from my customers, is about having the right attitude. I've heard people saying that my customers don't understand how we operate. They are not even willing to empathize with us. But I would like to ask a question to all of us here. Is it about questioning whether the customers understand us or not? Or is it about asking ourselves the kind of service level that we would like to give to our customers, the standards that we set for ourselves? So we need to ensure that the attitude is right. We have to take any feedback positively and looking at it as a medium to enhance ourselves. Most importantly, invest in automation. Unless and until your focus shifts to taking action, your focus shifts on enabling the improvement of the company, unless and until the focus is that, it's going to be very difficult analyzing the information. You'll spend a lot of time and bandwidth of your team in deriving insights of the feedbacks that you are collecting from your customers. So invest in a solution which can actually help you eliminate this effort and rather focus on delighting your customers, improving your processes, and making it a long-term success. See, now that we have covered the tips, and seen the process of implementing Net Promoter System, let's go on to see how have the organizations which have adopted NPS, how have they evolved? What are the practices that they take up? And something that is very well highlighted in a lot of books on customer loyalty, and there are immense case studies out there as well, that companies which are customer centric are focusing on good profits. So what are good profits? A good profit is not driven just by hard sell. It is not driven by your sales team just running after the quota, not wondering or not caring about if they are creating a disgruntled customer in the process, if they are providing a bad experience in meeting those targets. So it's very important to ensure that while you are meeting your sales targets and your revenue targets, your customers are not getting unhappy or you're not creating bad profits. How can that you enable that? It can be enabled when the seriousness comes from the top management and it's reflected on small things like showing it in your annual reports. How about showing your NPS score along with your sales targets and quarter targets in the annual report? Doesn't that give out the message that you are seriously considering customer experience as the metric which you would like to propagate as a metric within the organization? So make not just sales targets mandatory for your sales teams, but also customer experience metrics as a target for your customers. Sorry, for your sales team. See, something that the organizations these days in this connected world, when they are operating globally, and they have missed out on is the personal connect that companies in the past used to have with their customers. Do you remember, around 20 years back or 10 years back, when you used to go to your neighborhood store, your people would know you by your first name, but that's not the case anymore. But as the businesses and organizations have grown, technology has come to our aid. So it's very easy to actually identify a customer on your offline and online channels. So use technology to your support here and establish that one-to-one personal connect with your customers. Most importantly, these organizations that have succeeded with NPS have operationalized it. It's an organizational level effort, and it's a cultural shift that these organizations have. They have ensured that all the departments and individuals working in their organization are responsible for customer experience and customer delight. So these were some tips on implementing Net Promoter Score, the process of implementing Net Promoter Score, and the benefits or the traits of the companies that have implemented NPS. So what is this? Is this a one-time change that has happened with these organizations? Were they able to do it overnight? No, that's not the case. And as I always like to say it, it's like hitting the gym. It's about small changes every day. It's like doing it on and on a daily basis. You persist on it, and I bet you are going to succeed in the long run, achieving an organization which is focused on customer delight and is a leader in the industry. So that's the end of our webinar session, and we would like to open the session for any questions. A few questions that we have received on email. And
thanks, Kushal. Thank you very much for this great webinar and sharing the tips that with our listeners. We are now open for questions.
definitely, Vivek, that has been asked a lot. And what do you have to suggest? So I personally believe that there is no good NPS score. It's about looking at not just the score, but looking at what can you do to actually improve the delta, the shift in the NPS score. It's not about comparing yourself to the other industry bodies and other competition, because the NPS is never about the score. It's about the process. It's about taking action on the feedback and looking at yourself. How have you changed on the last quarter or the last 6 months? What's your take on it?
I absolutely agree with you, Kushal, on that, because you could either chase the number or you could chase your customer's experience.
Absolutely.
Make NPS a measure of your customer's experience, and then you forget about the number. You just focus on improving the experience that is measured by the delta in the NPS. Just focus on keeping that delta positive, and you should be good to go.
Perfect. Perfect. There's another one coming our way. Could you name a few leading NPS companies that we could learn from? What do you have to say, Vivek?
Well, there are a lot actually. Some that we always actually learn from, and have written a lot about in our blogs also. One of which is my favorite, is Apple. look at how Apple really focuses on customer experience. It has been using NPS across all the channels that it is interacting with its customers on. And it is one of the best examples of how a customer centric organization can grow and become, honestly, one of the biggest organizations in the world. What about you, Kushal? What comes to your mind?
That's an amazing example, Vivek. Apple is has a brand of or an army of brand loyalists across the globe. You yourself are one, and I totally. That's a great example. See, another one which is personal favorite is Zappos. The way they have changed the whole company customers is amazing. Do you know?
Especially e-commerce companies.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, companies generally have a tendency of removing their phone number from their websites because they, you know, that's it's a cost for them having a huge customer support team. You know what? Zappos has thousands of customer support engineers, customer success team. That is what they like to call them, who because they are not trying to achieve a Six Sigma, they are not trying to achieve an operational efficiency. Maybe that is important, but what is even more important is the customer delight. And that's what they have done to ensure that the customers get an amazing experience. We have also written some nice stories on how they have gone out of the way to delight the customers. I'm sure the listeners would like to take a look at our blog on customerguru.in.
Yes, absolutely. Well, with that, we have come to the last 5 minutes of our webinar, and we would like to thank everyone who has taken out the time to participate in this webinar. It is a huge motivation for us to keep sharing all these experiences that we have gained through our experience in implementing and rolling out NPS programs for the clients that we work with. We would love to tell you more. If you have any challenges that you're facing in your organization with regards to NPS, or you are thinking of kickstarting NPS, bingo, go ahead and call us. Go ahead and get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to help you. We are happy to give free 30 minutes consulting calls. Get on a free 30-minute consulting call with anyone in your organization and help you overcome the challenges that you're facing. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to hear from you. Please feel free to reach out in case of any queries regarding Net Promoter System.